Do you like documentaries? Of course you do. I call this one England's Rise to Power, Mercantilism and the American Colonies. At the end of the Middle Ages, new ideas about the economy and society were reshaping English thinking. One of these ideas was called mercantilism. Let's find out more. Meet Thomas Munn, author, explorer, and merchant. Who helped come up with these theories? Let's ask him a few questions. Mr. Munn, what's the best way for a nation to gain wealth and power?
Obviously foreign trade, but we must sell more than we buy.
What does mercantilism need to work?
Raw materials for finished goods, of course. Just ask Philip.
Philip Amatus was an English explorer who made a few trips to North America's eastern coast. There's Philip now. What did you see in America?
There were all sorts of animals and commodities of all types. The seas were filled with fish to be sold in England, and the people were eager to trade with us.
Interesting. Well, it sounds like many English explorers saw America as a land of opportunity, guided by new economic ideas. End of story. Wait, we aren't finished. We're just beginning. We have some guiding questions left unanswered. What was colonial America's role within English mercantilism? And how did English mercantilism determine who benefited from American colonization? Oh yeah, this is a lesson with an essential question. How did mercantilism determine English and colonial visions of America? The new ideas motivating English colonization became known as mercantilism. Let's use this graphic organizer to define mercantilism. First, England needed to establish a favorable balance of trade by exporting more than it imports, which meant it sold more goods to other areas than it bought. Second, it needed to create colonies to extract raw materials from and sell them finished goods. Third, it needed to establish protectionist policies, such as tariffs and duties, or taxes on imports and exports, forcing the colonists to trade with England. Protectionism refers to the practice of protecting a country's domestic industries from foreign competition. Pause the video and write a definition for mercantilism in section 1 of the guided viewing. Mercantilism was an economic theory and system that argued that wealth was established through maintaining a favorable balance of trade by protecting local industry. Mercantilism created a system of global exchange called triangular trade. Let's take a look at the following diagram to see how it worked. First, from England, ships carried manufactured goods and guns to Africa. Second, from Africa, the same ships brought manufactured goods and enslaved persons to the American colonies. Third, from the colonies, raw materials were sent to England. Using the diagram, what did England need from the colonies to make mercantilism work? England needed raw materials from the colonies to produce finished goods sold in other markets. The potential profits from mercantilism motivated England to establish American colonies and controlled the way the colonial economy developed. According to English mercantilism, each colony had to produce profit by sending England raw materials and buying from them finished goods. To meet England's mercantile demands, The colonies specialized based on the colony's environment and available resources. In Section 1 of the guided viewing, find the table titled Regional Colonial Economy. As we go through each colony, pause the video and fill out the table. In the southern colonies, cash crops such as tobacco provided England with a profitable raw material and created a plantation economy. Cash crops are crops grown for their commercial value rather than used by the grower. In the middle colonies, the large bays made the eastern portions into shipping and warehouse centers, where goods were stored and traded. In the western portions, wheat and rye were grown. In New England, the rocky terrain made the plantation economy impossible, but shipping, timber, and whaling became key industries in English mercantilism. Now we're ready for the next guiding question. What was colonial America's role within English mercantilism? Remember, England colonized America to increase their control of the world's wealth. They passed a number of protectionist policies known as the Navigation Acts to maximize profitability within the colonies. The Navigation Acts were a series of laws passed by the British government in the 17th and 18th centuries that regulated and restricted colonial trade with foreign countries. Let's look at how it worked. Most goods going to and from the colonies had to be transported on English ships. Goods coming from other European nations or rival colonies had to go through England first, where tariffs, a tax on imports, were applied. Certain colonial goods could only be sold to England, where an export duty was applied before it was sent to foreign nations and colonies. English pounds or gold and silver money had to be used in trade with England. How do you think that the Navigation Acts impacted who benefited from mercantilism? To answer this question, use the table titled Navigation Acts in Section 2 of the guided viewing. First, the use of the English ships ensured England could better control and track the flow of goods, helping to prevent smuggling. Second, tariffs made foreign goods more expensive, which encouraged colonists to buy English goods. Third, export duties made colonial goods in foreign countries and their colonies more expensive, which made their citizens less likely to buy colonial goods from America. Fourth, forcing the colonies to use their gold and silver to trade with England discouraged investment into the colonies' local economies. Sounds like a win for England. A lack of a local economy meant that England provided the majority of finished goods to the colonies, which helped stabilize prices in England, encouraged English industrial development, and ensured larger profits for English merchants and government. Mercantilism helped England become one of the most powerful nations in Europe at the time because it provided its government with resources to build a large navy and army. Mercantilism also benefited people in the colonies, some more than others, which led to a social order in the colonial society. Pull out Section 2 of the guided viewing and find the diagram Colonial Social Order to fill it out as we go through the next section. At the top were the gentry. The gentry were connected to the English merchant houses, banks, and government. They owned the majority of the property in the colonies and dominated the colonial governments. Below them were the small property owners that depended on the gentry's connections to England to participate in larger triangular trade systems. There was also free labor, some skilled, such as carpenters, that the gentry employed, and some very small shop owners that both bought from and sold to the gentry. At the bottom were the enslaved and indentured to many of the gentry. The enslaved and indentured worked for no pay, and oftentimes in horrible conditions. Without a strong domestic economy, the economic opportunities that many colonists had envisioned when heading to America dwindled into a single vision controlled by the gentry. This meant that during the first century of colonization, colonial society came to resemble the old feudal system in Europe. A number of powerful families connected to English mercantilism controlled much of the economic opportunities for the rest. Slowly, greater access to economic opportunities emerged, helping to create broader visions of America. But that's a conversation for later in the unit. For now, let's answer the final guiding question. How did English mercantilism determine who benefited from American colonization? Mercantilism was a new system of ideas and economic policies that motivated and set the rules for England's American colonies. Along with the environment, mercantilism defined each colonial region's development. It also prevented a strong domestic economy from developing, ensuring a few well-connected families controlled the colonial economy and society in the colony's early stages. In the next lesson, you'll explore the political consequences of colonization and mercantilism. Stay tuned and stay aware, because people keep making history.
Hey!